I have seen brilliant men with IQs that would make Einstein look average, rot in the financial gutter. I haven't seen this once or twice. I have seen it repeatedly, like a tragic, endless loop from the Great Depression to the dot-com bubble, through the 2008 collapse and the recent crypto hysteria. Raw intelligence, that ability to crunch numbers or recite Latin poetry, has zero correlation with the ability to accumulate wealth and keep it. If it did, every math professor would own an island in the Caribbean, and every librarian would be a tycoon. What I have seen, over nearly a century of observing human stupidity in its natural habitat, is that ruin does not discriminate by intellect. It discriminates by temperament. And the most destructive pattern, the most pernicious disease infecting the mind of the modern investor, is the pathological inability to deal with the reality of time. You believe, with an almost religious faith, that life owes you a second chance, or a third, or a final big swing that will magically solve decades of neglect. You think there is a magic button, a lottery ticket disguised as an investment opportunity that will erase 30 years of mediocre decisions. Let me be brutally clear, because delicacy is the enemy of understanding when you are bleeding out. The universe does not care about you. The market does not know your name. The mathematics of compound interest have no feelings, no pity, and they do not negotiate. If you have reached the age of 50 without significant assets, if you look at your bank statement and see a void where a fortress should be, you are not just late. You are in an emergency. You are sitting on a sofa in a burning house complaining about the thermostat. The exponential curve, that force of nature that should be serving you, that should be working while you sleep, is now working against you. It manifests in the inflation, eating what little you have, in the decay of your human capital, and in the inexorable approach of the day when you will no longer be able to work. Time, which was your benevolent friend at 20, has become your executioner. And the first thing you must do to stop dying financially is to kill your hope. Yes, kill the hope that something easy is going to happen. Hope is what sells lottery tickets and day trading courses. What you need right now is not hope. You need rational panic. Let's perform an exercise in imagination. Not one of those pleasant creative visualization exercises. Let's visualize the catastrophe. Imagine you are 75 years old. You are in the kitchen of a house you rent because you never managed to buy your own, or you had to sell it to pay debts. The coffee is getting cold on a worn-out Formica table. You feel a sharp pain in your hip, the kind that needs physical therapy, but therapy isn't in the budget. The phone rings. It's a debt collector, or perhaps your son asking for help, and you have to say no. You have to say no because you have nothing. You open the refrigerator and mentally calculate the cost of every item inside. You live in fear that the car will break down, that a tooth will ache, that the rent will go up, that tightness in your chest, that chronic anxiety that tastes like metal in your mouth. That is the accumulated result of thousands of small, comfortable decisions you made today. It is the ghost of Christmas future, and he is not bringing gifts. He is bringing the bill. And the bill for financial stupidity is the most expensive one there is, because it charges interest not just on your money, but on your dignity. Most people live in a state of financial sleepwalking. They wake up, spend, work, sleep, and repeat, believing that their future self is a different person. They treat their own future as if it were a rich, benevolent stranger who will magically appear to pay the present self's tabs. But I have terrible news for you. The future self has arrived. Look in the mirror. It is you. And you are broke. That rich stranger never existed. It was a fiction created by your brain to avoid the pain of discipline. And now, faced with this reality, What do most people do? They enter denial. They avoid looking at the balance. They avoid doing the math. They think that if they don't look at the monster disappears. This is the behavior of a child, not an adult. And the market punishes children with ruthless severity. The first step out of the hole is not financial. It is psychological. It is admitting that you failed. It is looking at your financial life and saying, I was the architect of this disaster. As long as you blame the government, the boss, the economy, the ex-wife, or bad luck, you will remain poor. Victims never get rich, because victims have no agency. Victims wait to be saved. No one is coming to save you. Now, let's dissect why this happened. It wasn't an accident. It was biology. Your brain, that complex machine evolved on the African savanna, was not designed for the capital markets of the 21st century. It was designed to avoid being eaten by lions and to consume calories whenever possible. On the savanna, if you found a tree full of sweet fruit and decided to save some for 10 years from now, the fruit would rot or someone would steal it. The logical, evolutionary, biological impulse was to consume everything now. Immediate gratification was a survival strategy. The problem is that you no longer live on the savanna. You live in a complex economic system where survival depends on the ability to defer consumption. But your primitive brain, your amygdala, is still in charge. Psychologists call this hyperbolic discounting. It is the irrational human tendency to value a small reward now infinitely more than a large reward later. You prefer to eat the pizza today than to have a healthy body a year from now. You prefer to buy the new car today to impress neighbors who don't care about you than to have financial freedom 20 years from now. You have traded gold for plastic trinkets over and over again. Every time you swiped that credit card to buy something you didn't need, with money you didn't have, you were obeying a primitive impulse and sabotaging your own future existence. You were eating the seeds that should have been planted, and now, at harvest time, you look at the field and see only packed dirt and weeds, and you wonder why you are hungry. This disconnection between the present and the future is the root of all financial misery, and it is amplified by the modern environment. You carry in your pocket a device designed by the world's brightest engineers to hijack your dopamine. Social media, targeted advertising, consumer culture, it is all a psychological warfare machine aimed directly at your wallet. They know how your brain works better than you do. They know that if they show the right image, play the right music, and create a sense of scarcity, you will buy. You are a lab rat in a Skinner box, pressing the lever to receive the food pellet, not realizing that with every press, the walls of the box close in a little tighter. Your freedom to consume is, in fact, the construction of your own prison. But I am not here just to diagnose the disease and leave you dying in the waiting room. There is a cure. But I warn you in advance, the medicine is bitter. If you are waiting for a sugar pill, a tip on 3 stocks to buy now to get rich, stop listening. Go away. Keep digging your grave. But if you are ready for surgery without anesthesia, if you are ready to accept that the only way out is through pain, discipline, and boredom, then pay attention. We are going to apply the rule of inversion. Carl Jacobi, the great German mathematician, used to say, invert, always invert. Instead of asking, how can I get rich quickly, ask, what is guaranteeing that I stay poor? Identify the behaviors that are destroying you and stop doing them. It is remarkable how much life improves when you simply stop being stupid. The first application of inversion for those late in the game is this: staunch the bleeding. You cannot fill a bucket that is riddled with holes. It doesn't matter how much you earn. If you spend it all, the result is 0. And if you are 50 and have no net worth, you are spending it all. You need to become a financial monk. I am not talking about cutting out the latte. I am talking about radical structural changes. If you live in a house that consumes 40% of your income, move. Sell. Go to a smaller place. Oh, but what about my status? What will my friends think? Your friends are not going to pay for your retirement. Status is a hallucinogenic drug that makes you see kings where there are only indebted beggars. Sell the car you can't afford. Cancel the subscriptions you don't use. Ruthlessly eliminate any expense that is not vital to your biological survival or your ability to generate income. You need to live on less than you earn. Much less, not 10% less. If you are starting now, at 50, you need to save 30%, 40%, 50%, 50% of what you earn. That's impossible, you say. No, it is not impossible. It is necessary. It is the mathematics of survival. If you don't do this, you will work until you die. The choice is yours. Discomfort now or misery later. Inversion teaches us that the path to wealth does not begin with earning more. It begins with needing less. The person who needs little is antifragile. The person who needs much is a slave to their own maintenance. Cut your cost of living to the bone. Feel the pain of deprivation. Use that pain as fuel. Let it remind you every day that you are on a rescue mission for your own life. The second pillar of our recovery strategy is what I call the Lollapalooza effect of reliability. At 20, you could rely on your raw energy, your ability to pull all-nighters, your physical strength. At 50, your greatest asset is not your biceps, it is your reputation. And reputation is built on a simple, boring foundation: reliability. If you want to maximize your active income, and you need to do this because you need capital to invest, you have to become the most reliable person in the room. Reliability is rare. The world is full of brilliant people who don't deliver on time. Creative people who don't answer emails. Talented people who are emotionally unstable. If you are merely consistently reliable, if you do what you said you would do, when you said you would do it, you are already in the top 1% of the labor market. The safest way to get what you want is to deserve what you want. It sounds like a tautology, but it is a deep law of the universe. The world is not yet a crazy enough place to consistently reward a bunch of people who don't deserve it. Become a fanatic for delivery. Meet deadlines with religious obsession. Be the person who solves problems, not the one who creates them. When you become indispensable due to your reliability, your income rises. And the best part, reliability generates referrals. People want to work with those they trust. They pay a premium for the peace of mind of knowing the job will get done. At this stage of life, you cannot afford to be an unstable genius. You need to be a rock. Use your experience, your trench wisdom, to avoid the mistakes the young make. Your competitive advantage is stability. Sell stability. Sell certainty. And use every extra penny of that maximized income to buy your freedom. Now we arrive at the third pillar, where math meets reality, the late compounding advantage and the margin of safety. You know the formula. Future value equals present value multiplied by 1 plus the interest rate to the power of time. The problem is the time variable. Your time is short. You don't have 40 years to let the money grow. You have 10, maybe 15 years of intense productive work. Since time is short, the only variable you can brutally control is the present value, the principal contribution. You need to inject massive capital into the system. It is no use investing pennies. You need to invest amounts that hurt. And here enters the mortal danger. When people realize they are late, Their instinct is to try to increase the interest rate. They think, I need to make up for lost time, so I'll look for investments that yield 50% a year. This is suicide. The pursuit of extraordinary returns, without having the necessary extraordinary skill, is the fastest way to lose the little you have. The market is an efficient mechanism for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. If you try to win fast now, you will fall for scams. You will buy bubbles at the top. You will trade on margin, and you will go broke. And if you go broke at 50, there is no recovery. It is game over. Therefore, your investment strategy must be defensive. The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. The rule before that is, don't lose money. You need productive assets that are simple, liquid, and low cost. Forget the idea of picking the next Amazon. You don't know how to pick stocks. If you did, you wouldn't be in this situation. Have the humility to admit your incompetence. Buy the whole haystack. Use broad index funds, ETFs, that buy the 500 or 1,000 largest companies in the world. Accept the market return. The market return, compounded on a massive contribution, which is the fruit of your deprivation and hard work, is enough to save you. Not to buy a yacht, but to buy dignity. The magic is not in the extravagant rate of return. The magic is in the brutal consistency of the contribution into assets that won't go to zero. Think of Coca-Cola. Think of See's Candies. Companies that sell things people will keep buying. By buying an index, you are becoming a partner in human ingenuity, in the global corporate capacity to generate profit. It is a bet on the survival and progress of humanity. Is it boring? Yes, deathly boring. And it should be. Excitement in investing is a danger signal. If you feel adrenaline when investing, you are gambling, not investing. Good investing is like watching paint dry or grass grow. If you want entertainment, go to the movies. Here, we are trying to build a barrier against misery. Within this reconstruction process, you must keep a mental blacklist, a list of asinine things to avoid at all costs. First, leverage. Never, ever borrow money to invest. If you are smart, you don't need leverage. If you are dumb, leverage will destroy you. Second, herd mentality. When your neighbor, the one who also understands nothing about finance, starts talking about making money with a digital dog coin, run. The fear of missing out, or FOMO, is the trigger for stupidity. Third, interruption. The market will fall. It will fall 30%, 40%, maybe 50%. If you sell in panic, you crystallize the loss and you are out of the game. You need the coolness of a coroner. Look at the drop. Understand it is the nature of the market, and keep buying. In fact, buy more. It is the liquidation sale of your freedom. The circle of competence is a concept you should tattoo on your brain. Knowing what you don't know is more useful than being brilliant. Stay within what you understand. If you can't explain how an investment makes money in one simple paragraph to a 10-year-old, don't invest. Complexity is the hiding place of fraud and inefficiency. Wall Street loves to sell complexity because it generates fees. You want simplicity. You want transparency. You want something you can understand and hold on to when the world is on fire. Because the world will catch fire. Crises happen. Wars happen. Pandemics happen. Your plan cannot depend on an eternal blue sky. It has to be robust enough to survive the storm. And please, eliminate envy. Envy is the only deadly sin that provides no pleasure. Gluttony provides momentary pleasure. Lust does too. Envy is just pain. It is the pain of seeing someone else have what you think should be yours. It is colossal stupidity. The success of another does not diminish yours. Wealth is not a zero-sum game. If your brother-in-law got rich on an idiotic bet, good for him. It doesn't change your reality. Focusing on the neighbor's grass only makes you forget to water your own. And your grass is dry enough already. Put on blinders. Look at your path, at your progress, at your savings rate. Comparison is the thief of joy, and, in this case, the thief of focus. You don't have the mental energy to waste on other people's lives. We arrive, finally, at the moral conclusion of this journey. You traded decades of compound interest for momentary gratification. You ate desserts before dinner for 30 years. Now, you have indigestion and the pantry is empty. The price has arrived. And the only currency that pays this debt is pain. Pain of working more than you would like. Pain of spending less than your friends. Pain of admitting you were wrong. But there is a nobility in this pain. It is the pain of growth. It is the pain of finally taking responsibility for your own existence. There is a Chinese proverb that says, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." It is a cliché, yes, but clichés become clichés because they are true. But I am going to add the MUNGER corollary to this proverb. Don't expect the tree to grow in a day. You will plant today, and tomorrow it will look the same. And the day after tomorrow too, and you will have to keep watering, protecting, tending, without seeing any fruit for a long time. It is the boredom of redemption. You need to learn to love this boredom. You need to learn to find satisfaction in purposeful deprivation, in the balance that grows slowly, in the quiet sensation that for the first time in your life, you are not digging a hole, but building a ladder. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Self-pity is a paralyzing drug. No one is coming to rescue you. The government has its own problems. Your children have their own lives. Your friends are busy trying not to sink too. It is you against entropy. It is you against the mathematics of ruin. But the good news is that the mathematics of recovery also exists. It is slow, it is hard, but it is fair. If you do the right thing, day after day, without interruption, without stupidity, without seeking shortcuts, you can change the ending of your story. You may not finish as a billionaire, but you can finish free. You can finish without the fear of answering the phone. You can finish being the owner of your time, even if it is only in the final chapters of life. And that, my friend, is worth every sacrifice. So, get off that metaphorical couch. Stop whining about spilled milk. Clean up the mess. Sell the junk. Cut the costs. Work seriously, invest simply, and have the patience of a mountain. The road is long, but it is the only road that leads anywhere worth going. Start now.